What does it mean to really love yourself? Well, we're going to dive into that topic right now. So, there's a big difference between self esteem, self confidence, and self love. So, self confidence and self esteem are usually dependent on external factors. There are situations where external validation is the source of it. So perhaps you have a really great job, or you do really well at school, or you drive a nice car. Those are things that will give people a good sense of self confidence, and even some self esteem. But at the root of it all, the question is, how much do you actually like yourself? Because I can think back to a time where I had a lot of things that were externally validated by other people. And, if you asked me what I liked about myself, I would have told you exactly those things. I'm smart, I do well in school, I have a great career. But I had no idea that I didn't really love myself. But it showed up in other ways. It showed up in the ways that I was behaving towards other people. It showed up in the ways that I was arrogant or rude or conceited. That's where it showed up. And then finally, I started to realize that these are the things that I really need to work on. And that when you truly love yourself, you don't have anything to prove. And then I took it a step further because, it's easy to love yourself for your great qualities. And, we often know what they are. But then there's another level of this where you can deep dive even into your good qualities and really understand them better, take them a step further and decide what it is about those qualities that you really like. And then the hard part is finding a way to love yourself even with the qualities that you don't like about yourself. So, for example, for me, it was always my temper. I have a bad temper, and it's still there, but it really just doesn't even need to come out that much because I have found such healthy ways to express my dissatisfaction or dislike of things. And the other thing is that I speak up sooner. One thing I used to do is because I was so afraid to let people see this quote unquote ugly side of me that I just wouldn't even speak up at all. So that was my answer. Just don't say anything because if I say something, it comes out sideways. I did some work on that and I figured out that if I could actually reflect my disappointment or whatever the case may be, or my disagreement with something, I can do it in a really healthy way where I don't really have to explode. Obviously, there are other things I didn't like about me as well. And I started to either decide whether I needed to accept those things or decide whether I wanted to change them. So it's a journey because at the end of the day, there's some things we can't change and we have to learn to accept them. For example, I'm short. That's not ever going to change. So I had to make a decision about whether I wanted to always wear heels just to be tall or just accept the fact that I'm short and be comfortable and not wear heels when I don't want to. I chose the latter because at my age, my back can suffer from wearing heels all the time and they're really uncomfortable. Self-love is about learning to love yourself it's actually about learning to love yourself unconditionally. We talk about we love our children unconditionally. We talk about that. That's easy. We know what their good points are. We know what their bad points are, but we still love them. Somehow we have to figure out how to translate that same unconditional love and put it back on ourselves. Maybe for you, it's something different. Maybe you have habits that you're not really proud of, or maybe you want to make changes, but you can't find it within you to actually do that. But sometimes it's the suppression of these qualities in us that lead to these disturbing patterns that keep happening over and over again. So a healthy way to deal with that is maybe just observing what are these behaviors and trying to understand why you have these repetitive patterns in your life. About 20 years ago, I almost died from a complication related to surgery for my thyroid cancer. And I remember thinking on that day that I'm going to die today, but I don't even really like who I am. I thought, I don't even want people to remember the me that I am now. Well, I was lucky enough to have a second chance, and I made it my life's mission at that point to start to understand why I didn't like myself and to figure out how to like myself. And that really was one of the first few steps in my journey. I mean, for me, it's been a 20-something year long journey, and it escalated probably about 5 or 6 years ago. But each one of us today can take those steps into figuring out, if we die today, do we actually like ourselves? And if we don't, why not? And what are the things that we would want to see changed? If there's one thing that I would leave you with today, it would be to accept where you are in this moment. Because you know what? There's a reason you're here. And you've probably had some traumas or some difficult things that you've been through in life that have molded who you are at this very moment. And that's okay. We all have some struggles that we've dealt with. But the more important thing is to understand that those things can be dealt with. You can get down to the root problem of what has facilitated your behaviors and what has caused you to not like yourself. And you can actually start changing those behaviors. But have some self-compassion, because it takes some time. And when you start that journey and you start opening up one can of worms after the other, you're going to get to a place where you start liking yourself more and more. And I promise you, that journey is entirely worth it. If you found this content helpful, all I ask is that you like, subscribe, and share this content, because every time that happens, this information gets circulated to other women who may find this helpful. Remember, on the other side of your greatest fear is your greatest joy.